Picture this, it's 2:30 in the morning, Birmingham streets are doing that thing where they're quiet but not quite silent, you know, and Officer Sarah Mitchell, 31 years old, divorced, 3 years on the force, drinks her coffee black because her ex always loaded it with sugar and she's got a thing about taking control of the small stuff now. She's sitting in her patrol car outside a kebab shop on Broad Street when dispatch crackles through with coordinates that'll make her question literally everything she thought she knew about her job. Unit 7-3, we've got a vehicle of interest heading southbound on the A38. Silver Honda Civic, license plate Charlie Delta 58 Romeo Yankee Lima. Do not approach. I repeat, do not approach. Surveillance only. And here's where it gets proper weird, right? Because Sarah's been doing this long enough to know that do not approach usually means guns, drugs, maybe someone on a watch list. But the voice on the other end, dispatch operator Marcus Webb, who's worked nights for 16 years and sounds like absolutely nothing phases him anymore, his voice cracks just slightly on that second, do not approach. Just a hairline fracture in his usual monotone, but Sarah catches it because she's got this thing about reading people, always has, drove her ex mental because he could never hide anything from her. She pulls onto the A38, keeping her distance, and there it is. Silver Honda Civic, maybe 15 years old, one taillight flickering like it's got a loose connection. Driving exactly 30 miles per hour in a 40 zone, perfect lane discipline. Turn signals used precisely 3 seconds before each maneuver. It's driving like someone's grandmother who's terrified of getting pulled over, which is already wrong because it's nearly 3 a.m. and who drives like that at 3 a.m. But then Sarah gets close enough to see through the rear window, and her stomach does this weird dropping thing because the driver's seat? Empty. Not like someone's slouched down or hiding. Empty. Proper vacant. And she thinks maybe she's seeing it wrong, maybe the angle's off, but she switches lanes, comes up on the passenger side, and yeah, there's nobody in that car. Nobody driving. Nobody in the passenger seat. The back seats are empty too. It's just a car, rolling down the Birmingham Ring Road at precisely 30 miles per hour, obeying every traffic law like it's taking its driving test. Dispatch, this is Unit 7-3. Are you seeing this? The vehicle, there's no driver. Repeat, no visible driver. Static. Then Marcus's voice, and now there's something else in it, something Sarah's never heard before. 7-3, we're aware. 4 additional units are en route to your location. Maintain visual contact. Do not, and I cannot stress this enough, do not attempt to stop the vehicle. 4 more units. For an empty car doing 30 in a 40. Sarah's been a cop long enough to know when something's deeply, fundamentally wrong, and whatever this is, it's got that feeling all over it. That skin-crawling, hair-standing-up feeling you get right before everything goes sideways. The Honda takes the exit towards Selly Oak, smooth as butter, and Sarah follows, and now she can see the other patrol cars converging, keeping their distance, and there's 5 police vehicles now, just following this empty car through Birmingham at 3 in the morning like it's the most natural thing in the world. And nobody's telling her why. Okay, look, before we get deeper into this absolute madness, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button because this story gets so much stranger than you're thinking right now, and honestly, I need you to drop a comment telling me if you've ever seen anything even remotely like this because I've been researching this for weeks and I still can't quite believe it happened, alright? Alright. Let's keep going. The thing about Birmingham at 3 a.m. is it's got this weird liminal quality, right? Like the cities between states. The nightclubs are emptying out but the morning shifts haven't started yet, and there's this gap where it's not quite night and not quite morning, just this strange in-between time where weird stuff feels more possible. Sarah's following this car, and she's trying to piece together what could possibly explain this. Remote control. But no, that's ridiculous, this isn't a toy, this is a full-sized vehicle navigating actual traffic. Self-driving tech. Maybe, but Honda Civics from 2009 don't come with autopilot, and anyway, those systems don't work like this, they need sensors and cameras and the whole setup, plus they're programmed to pull over if there's an emergency, not just keep rolling along like everything's fine. Behind her, she can see Unit 42, that's Jake Patterson, youngish guy, maybe 26, still gets excited about car chases like he's in an action film. Next to him is Unit 91, veteran officer David Chen, 22 years on the force, seen everything, supposedly unflappable. Then there's Unit 85 and Unit 27, and they're all just following. The Honda takes another turn, heading toward the Harborne area now, and Sarah notices something, the route it's taking. It's not random. It's deliberate, methodical. Every turn is at a proper intersection, no sudden movements, no erratic behavior. It's like watching someone drive who's very, very careful not to attract attention. Which is hilarious because nothing attracts attention quite like being an empty car followed by 5 police vehicles at 3 in the morning. Her radio crackles. It's Jake from Unit 42, can't help himself, so are we gonna talk about the fact that we're literally in a slow-speed chase with a ghost car, or are we just pretending this is normal? Before anyone can respond, Marcus from dispatch cuts in, voice sharp, maintain radio silence unless you have relevant updates, this is an active operation. Active operation. That's interesting phrasing. Not investigation. Not incident. Operation. Like they'd been planning for this. Sarah's mind is racing now. She's thinking about all the briefings she's sat through, all the training scenarios, and none of them, literally none of them, covered what to do when you're following a self-driving car that shouldn't be self-driving through the streets of Birmingham in the middle of the night while your dispatcher acts like this is somehow expected. The Honda slows down. 25 miles per hour now. Still perfectly in control, still signaling every turn, but slower. And Sarah gets this feeling, right? This weird sensation that the car knows it's being followed. Which is absurd because cars don't know things, cars don't have awareness, but still. They're in a residential area now, terraced houses lining both sides of the street, bedroom windows dark, everyone sleeping, completely unaware that this bizarre procession is rolling past their front doors. The Honda's brake lights flicker, proper gentle stop at a red light despite there being no other traffic, nobody to hit. No reason to stop except that the light is red and apparently whoever or whatever is controlling this vehicle is very concerned with following traffic laws. Sarah pulls up 3 car lengths back, and in her rearview mirror, she can see the other units fanning out, creating this loose perimeter around the Honda. It's like they're hurting it, except they're not, they're just watching. The light turns green. The Honda proceeds through the intersection. 30 miles per hour again, and this goes on. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15. The Honda just drives. Perfect execution. Never speeding. Never drifting in the lane. Like someone's grandmother is at the wheel, except there's no grandmother, there's no anyone, there's just an empty seat and a steering wheel that turns itself and pedals that press themselves, and Sarah can feel her grip tightening on her own steering wheel because this is wrong, this is deeply wrong, and nobody's telling her anything. At minute 23 of this surreal parade, her phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number, Officer Mitchell. Check the car's registration. Then check the date 3 years ago. You'll understand. Sarah's blood goes cold. How does someone have her personal mobile number? How do they know she's the one following this car? She glances at her phone again, but before she can process this, dispatch crackles through with a voice she doesn't recognize. Not Marcus. Someone else. Higher up. All units, be advised. The vehicle is approaching a critical juncture. When it stops, and it will stop, you are to maintain your distance and wait for specialized units to arrive. Do not approach the vehicle. Do not attempt to look inside. Do not engage. Is this understood? A chorus of confirmations from the other units, but Sarah is still stuck on that text message. She pulls up the DVLA database on her in-car computer, types in the license plate while keeping one eye on the road. Vehicle registered to Martin Holloway, 42, Weston Lane, Birmingham. That address. She knows that address. It's. Oh God. 3 years ago. 3 years ago there was an incident. A domestic disturbance call that went wrong. So wrong. Officer Timothy Shaw responded, and there were shots fired, and when backup arrived, Officer Shaw was down, and Martin Holloway was dead in his kitchen, and his wife was screaming, and their daughter was. Sarah's hands are shaking now. The daughter. Emily Holloway. 7 years old at the time. Found in the car. Her father's car. This car. Silver Honda Civic. She'd been hiding in the back seat during the incident, crawled into the front, somehow managed to shift the car into neutral, and it rolled down the driveway while emergency services were dealing with the scene, rolled right into the street with little Emily trying to reach the pedals, trying to drive away from the house where her father had just died, and the car stops, not at a light. Not at a stop sign. Just stops. Middle of the road. Hazard lights come on. Sarah's heart is hammering. All 5 police vehicles have stopped too, engines idling, and there's this moment of absolute stillness where nobody moves, nobody speaks, and the only sound is the click-click-click of that Honda's hazard lights in the darkness. All units stand by, the unfamiliar voice from dispatch says, and Sarah can hear other sirens now, distant but getting closer, and she's putting pieces together but they don't make sense, none of this makes any sense. Her phone buzzes again. Same unknown number, she's been programming it for 3 years. Every night. Same route. Teaching the car to remember. Tonight's the anniversary. Watch what happens next. And before Sarah can even begin to process that message, the Honda's driver's door opens. By itself. Just swings open into the street, interior light flooding on, illuminating the empty driver's seat, the steering wheel, the gear shift, everything exactly as it should be except for the fact that there's nobody there and hasn't been anybody there and a figure steps out from between 2 parked cars on the sidewalk. Emily Holloway. 10 years old now. Wearing pajamas and a coat. Holding something in her hand, looks like a phone or a small tablet. She walks toward the Honda with this purposeful stride, not scared, not hesitant, like she's done this before. Do not approach, dispatch barks, and Sarah can hear the edge of panic now, can hear the situation spiraling beyond whatever control they thought they had, and she's watching this little girl walk to her dead father's car in the middle of the night while 5 police vehicles just sit there doing nothing. Emily climbs into the driver's seat. The door closes. The hazard lights turn off. And the Honda starts moving again. But different now. Faster. More aggressive. The speed limit's 40 but the Honda's doing 50, 55, and it's weaving through the streets with this confidence that wasn't there before, taking corners tighter, accelerating harder, and Sarah's chasing now, actually chasing, and she can hear dispatch yelling coordinates, yelling for units to cut it off, but the Honda's moving like it knows these streets better than any of them, like it's been practicing this route. And of course it has, every night for 3 years, learning the roads, learning the timing, learning how to. She's heading for the motorway. David Chen's voice cuts through the radio chatter, and he's right, the Honda's making a beeline for the M6, and if it gets on the motorway with a 10-year-old girl in control of a vehicle that's apparently semi-autonomous and operating well above legal speeds, this goes from weird to catastrophic very quickly. Sarah's doing 70 now trying to keep up, and the other units are spreading out, trying to box it in, but the Honda's too quick, too precise, and it hits the slip road onto the M6 doing 80, and Sarah's thinking about that little girl 3 years ago hiding in the back seat while her father died, thinking about how trauma does things to people, does things to kids especially, makes them retreat into themselves or lash out or in this case apparently spend 3 years teaching a car to drive itself so she can, what? Relive that night? Escape? Make a point? The motorway's nearly empty at this hour, just a few lorries and late-night travelers, and the Honda weaves between them like it's on rails, and Sarah's never seen anything like this, and she realizes with a jolt that Emily's not just controlling the car, she's integrated with it somehow, she's taught it her own driving style, her own decision-making, And now she's along for the ride in a vehicle that's part autonomous system and part extension of a traumatized child's need for control. We've got to stop her, Jake's voice, breathless. She's going to kill herself. Or someone else, David adds grimly. But Sarah's thinking about that text message. Teaching the car to remember. Tonight's the anniversary. And suddenly it clicks. She's not running, Sarah says into her radio. She's going somewhere specific. Mitchell, what are you? The incident 3 years ago, where did it happen? What was the address? Static, then Marcus's voice, the original dispatcher, and he sounds tired, so tired, 42 Weston Lane. But the family moved after, you know. After. Where did they move? More static. Then, I don't have that information. But Sarah's already pulling it up on her computer, cross-referencing Emily Holloway with current addresses, and there it is, 156, Oakwood Drive, Northfield. And she plots the route the Honda's taking, projects it forward, and yeah, it's heading toward Northfield, but not to Oakwood Drive. It's heading to Weston Lane. Back to the old house. The house where it happened. Dispatch, I know where she's going, Sarah transmits. She's going back to 42 Weston Lane. We need units there now. Mitchell, the new occupants. I know. That's why we need units there. She's not running away. She's trying to go home. And God, the weight of that, right? This kid who lost her father in the most traumatic way possible, who probably blamed herself somehow because kids always do, who spent 3 years creating this elaborate system to gain back some control, some agency, and now she's driving, or being driven by a car she's taught to drive itself, back to the place where her world fell apart, because maybe she thinks she can fix it, or maybe she just needs to see it one more time, or maybe she's just a 10-year-old girl who never processed what happened and this is the only way she knows how to cope. The Honda takes the exit toward Northfield, and Sarah can see more blue lights now, units converging from all directions, and she's got this sick feeling because this can only end badly. There's no version of this where a traumatized child in a semi-autonomous vehicle heading toward her old house in the middle of the night ends well. They're in the residential streets now, winding through neighborhoods that look exactly like the ones they left, terraced houses and parked cars and darkness, and the Honda's slowing down, back to that careful 30 miles per hour, like Emily knows she's close and wants to do this right, wants to approach the house the way her father used to when he'd come home from work, slow and steady, easing into the driveway. 42, Weston Lane appears on the left, a modest terraced house indistinguishable from a dozen others on the street, and there are lights on inside now, probably the new occupants woken by the sirens, and the Honda pulls up to the curb right in front, perfect parallel parking, and stops, engine off. Lights off. The door doesn't open. Sarah's out of her patrol car before she can think about it, despite dispatch screaming at her to stand down, despite protocol, despite everything, because she can't just sit there and watch this child sit in her dead father's car outside her old house surrounded by police like she's some kind of criminal. She approaches slowly, hands visible, no aggressive movements, and she can see Emily through the window now, this small figure in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house. Emily, Sarah says softly, stopping a few feet from the car. My name's Sarah. I'm a police officer, but I'm not here to hurt you or arrest you or anything like that. I just want to talk. Can we talk? Nothing. The girl doesn't move, doesn't acknowledge her. I know why you're here, Sarah continues, and she's winging it now, going off instinct, off that thing she has about reading people. I know what happened 3 years ago. I know about your dad. And I'm so sorry. Still nothing, but Sarah can see the girl's shoulders tense, can see her hands gripping the wheel tighter. This car, Sarah says, gesturing to the Honda, you taught it to drive, didn't you? Spent 3 years programming it, learning how to make it move on its own. That's incredible. That's properly brilliant. Do you know how smart you have to be to do something like that? A flicker. Emily's head turns slightly, just a degree or two, acknowledgement that she's listening. I bet your dad would be really proud, Sarah says, and okay, that might be a risk, might be pushing too hard, but she sees Emily's reflection in the side mirror, sees tears on the girl's face, and she knows she's right. He'd be amazed at what you can do. The door opens. Emily stays in the driver's seat but turns to face Sarah, and her voice when she speaks is small and broken. I just wanted to show him. Show him what, love? That I learned to drive. He said when I was old enough, he'd teach me. He promised. But then She can't finish the sentence, just gestures helplessly at the house. And Sarah gets it now. All of it. This wasn't about escape or control or even going back. This was about a promise. A father's promise to his daughter that got cut short by violence and death and all the terrible randomness of the world, and this child spent 3 years teaching herself to drive, teaching a car to drive itself, so she could fulfill that promise somehow, so she could show her dad that she learned, that she did what he said she would do, even though he wasn't there to see it. He saw it, Sarah says, and she doesn't know if she believes in that stuff, in spirits or afterlife or anything, but right now in this moment, she needs this girl to believe it. Emily, he saw. What you did tonight, driving all the way here, that was incredible. He saw, and he's proud, and he loves you. Emily's crying now, really crying, and she climbs out of the car and Sarah's there to catch her, and this 10-year-old girl just collapses into her arms while the other officers maintain their perimeter and dispatch is probably having an absolute meltdown, and somewhere the new occupants of 42, Weston Lane are watching through their windows trying to figure out what's happening. But none of that matters right now because this kid just needs someone to hold her while she falls apart, after a while. Could be minutes, could be longer. Emily pulls back, wiping her eyes. Am I in trouble? No, Sarah says firmly. No, you're not in trouble. But we need to call your mum, let her know you're safe. She's probably worried sick. Emily nods, and Sarah can see the adrenaline wearing off, the exhaustion setting in, can see this small girl who just pulled off something technically sophisticated and emotionally devastating and is now just tired, so tired. David Chin approaches, his movements careful, unthreatening. I've got her mother on the phone. She's on her way. Of course she is. Of course Emily's mother has been frantically searching, probably has been ever since she woke up and found her daughter's bed empty and the tablet missing and just knew, what Emily was planning. While they wait, Sarah sits with Emily on the curb, and the girl starts talking, explaining the system she built, how she used her tablet to control the car through the onboard computer, how she'd been practicing for months in empty parking lots at night, how she'd mapped out the route from their new house to the old one, programmed it into the system, tested it piece by piece until she was confident it would work. The hardest part was the traffic lights, Emily says with a wan smile. Took forever to get that right. She's 10 years old. 10 years old, and she built a semi-autonomous driving system out of grief and determination and a promise she couldn't let go of. A car pulls up, and Emily's mother gets out, and the look on her face is everything, terror and relief and anger and love all mixed together, and she runs to her daughter and Sarah steps back, gives them space, watches this reunion that's part reconciliation and part reckoning. Later, after Emily and her mother have left, after the specialist units have arrived and examined the Honda and documented everything, after the reports have been filed and the statements given, Sarah finds herself sitting in her patrol car as the sun starts to come up over Birmingham, and she's thinking about fathers and daughters and promises and how trauma finds the strangest ways to express itself. Her phone buzzes. Another text from that unknown number. Thank you for seeing her. For seeing what she needed. Sarah stares at it for a long moment, then types back, who is this? The response comes quickly, a friend of the family, someone who's been watching over Emily. Someone who thought tonight might be the night she finally tried this. I'm sorry I couldn't stop her, but I'm glad you were there. You could have called the police directly. And said what? That a 10-year-old girl has spent 3 years building an autonomous driving system and might use it to visit her old house. They would have thought I was mad. I needed Emily to do this, to get it out of her system. I just needed to make sure she'd be safe. She could have been killed. Someone else could have been killed. I know. I know. But she's smart, brilliant even. And she needed this. Needed to prove something to herself. To him. Now maybe she can start to heal. Sarah doesn't know what to say to that. Doesn't know if facilitating a traumatized child's dangerous catharsis is healing or enabling or something else entirely. But she thinks about Emily's face when she said, "I just wanted to show him," and she thinks maybe, just maybe, there are some things that need to be done before healing can begin. Tell her something for me, Sarah types. Tell her that her dad would be proud. And tell her that when she's old enough, if she wants to learn to drive properly, legally, safely, I'll teach her. The response, "I'll tell her." Thank you, Officer Mitchell. The conversation ends there, and Sarah never does figure out who was sending those messages, though she suspects it might be a teacher or a family friend or maybe even a therapist who saw the signs and made a choice about how to handle it. 3 weeks later, she gets a letter in the mail. No return address, but inside is a drawing from Emily, a sketch of a silver Honda Civic with a little girl in the driver's seat and a figure that might be her father sitting beside her in the passenger seat, both of them smiling. At the bottom, in careful handwriting, "He taught me after all." The official report filed by the Birmingham Police Department describes the incident as a minor engaging in unauthorized operation of a motor vehicle with technical assistance. They confiscate the tablet, examine the code Emily wrote, and several engineers later admit they're genuinely impressed by the sophistication of her system, though they recommend psychological evaluation rather than prosecution. Emily enters therapy. Her mother signs her up for a coding class, channeling that technical brilliance into something legal and productive. The Honda gets returned to the family, though the autonomous modifications are removed. Sarah goes back to her regular patrols, but she thinks about that night often. About the strange parade of police cars following an empty vehicle through Birmingham streets, about a 10-year-old girl who built a machine to fulfill a promise to her dead father. About how grief makes us do impossible things. She also thinks about the bigger picture, the thing nobody wants to talk about but everyone knows. The incident 3 years ago that started all this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a failure. A failure of de-escalation, of mental health response, of a system that sent armed officers to a domestic disturbance involving a man in crisis and ended with that man dead and a child traumatized and a family shattered. Martin Holloway had been off his medication. Had been struggling with depression and paranoia. Had called emergency services himself, asking for help. And instead of help, he got Officer Timothy Shaw with a gun, and things escalated, and shots were fired, and a 7-year-old girl hid in the back seat of her father's car while her entire world collapsed around her. There's no happy ending there. There's just a child who grew up too fast and learned to code and built a ghost car to chase a ghost promise, and a police officer who followed that car for 3 hours through Birmingham streets and watched a trauma unfold in slow motion. But here's the thing that sticks with Sarah, the thing she can't shake: Emily didn't program the car to crash. Didn't use her considerable technical skill to hurt herself or anyone else. She programmed it to drive safely. To follow traffic laws. To signal properly and stop at red lights and maintain appropriate speeds. Even in her grief, even in her pain, this 10-year-old girl's fundamental instinct was to do it right. To be careful. To not hurt anyone. Maybe that's the real story. Not the spectacular weirdness of an autonomous Honda being followed by 5 police cars at 3 in the morning, but the quiet dignity of a child who turned her trauma into technical achievement, who built something instead of breaking something, who found a way to say goodbye that was strange and risky but ultimately, in its own way, beautiful. Sarah keeps the drawing Emily sent her on her fridge. Looks at it sometimes when she's having a bad day, when the job feels too heavy, when she starts to forget why she became a cop in the first place. She became a cop to help people. To protect them. To be there in the moments when everything goes wrong. That night, following an empty car through Birmingham streets while a little girl tried to show her dead father that she learned to drive, Sarah did that. She helped. She protected. She was there. And sometimes, in this job, that's all you can do. Sometimes you can't fix the trauma or undo the damage or bring back the dead. Sometimes you just follow the empty car until the child appears, and then you hold her while she cries, and you tell her that her father would be proud. Sometimes that's enough. The sun's fully up now, Birmingham stirring to life around her, and Sarah starts her car, manual, conventional, no autonomous systems, and pulls back onto the streets. There are other calls to answer, other situations to navigate, other people who need help, but she'll remember this one. The silent pursuit. The ghost car. The girl who taught a machine to fulfill a promise. She'll remember it for the rest of her career. And every time someone asks her about the strangest call she's ever responded to, she'll tell them about the night 5 police cars followed an empty Honda Civic for 3 hours through Birmingham, and how it ended with a 10-year-old girl in pajamas and a father's unfulfilled promise and a drawing that now lives on a refrigerator in a small flat in Moseley. She'll tell them about how sometimes the job isn't about catching criminals or enforcing laws. Sometimes it's about recognizing pain when you see it, about understanding that people, especially children, process trauma in ways that don't make sense until suddenly they do, about being present in the moments when the world is breaking and just being there. Being there is enough. It has to be. Because 3 years from now, Emily Holloway will graduate top of her class in computer science. She'll go on to develop actual safety systems for autonomous vehicles, systems that save lives, systems built on the foundation of what she learned during those nights in empty parking lots teaching a car to remember. She'll give a TED talk about using technology to process grief. She'll write a memoir about growing up in the shadow of trauma. She'll become, in her own way, remarkable. But on this morning, as Sarah drives through Birmingham's waking streets, none of that has happened yet. Emily's just a 10-year-old girl going into therapy, trying to make sense of a senseless world, carrying a grief too big for small shoulders. And Sarah's just a cop who followed an empty car and found a heartbroken child and did her best to help. That's the story. Not the technical marvel or the bizarre spectacle or the viral headline. Just a girl and a promise and 5 police cars in the night and someone who cared enough to see past the strangeness to the pain underneath. The silent pursuit. That's what they called it in the reports. But Sarah knows better. It wasn't silent at all. It was the loudest cry for help she's ever heard. And for once, just this once, she was there to answer it.